Kwok brothers, or some have recently started referring to us as the Brothers Kwok. We are the world's biggest Web3 onboarding layer. We've helped to incubate companies that are today worth well over $12 billion. So I was one of the youngest people to qualify as an attorney in New York. So I worked at Blackstone in New York, and then was actually one of the first hires at Cloud Kitchens. At the time, was a new company that was started by Travis Kalanick, who founded Uber.
So what's it like now with you guys in working together as brothers? Because I have a brother and he was the reason I got into crypto, actually, funnily enough. Pros, cons.
For us, the most important thing, and really for any founder looking to start a company, is you have to really start it with someone that you can trust and that you know well. And I think there's no better person to do that with than your brother or sister. And I think that's why so many big companies are started by families and then passed down, especially, we're half Asian, and in Asian culture, a lot of big successful conglomerates were originally started by families, and then they're passed down, and ultimately the whole family comes and works together because those are the people that you can really rely on. And over the past couple of years, we've had some tremendous companies founded by people who started at our hackathons and founded by people who were just a couple of years ago pitching their ideas at our hackathons. The most valuable one today is called Cognition AI. So they built Devin, the AI software engineer. They're valued at $10.2 billion today. A company called EZALabs as well, who are now valued at $500 million, raised from the best of the best, like Sequoia. We've had a ton of companies go through Y Combinator and go through A16Z startup schools. We have by far the biggest network of developers in Web3 in the entire world.
Who's more likely to get scammed by a founder with good vibes?
Probably me.
More likely to get cancelled?
Cancelled? Probably me.
Who would be more dangerous with infinite money?
Phil.
Very excited today to have the Kwok brothers from EasyA on Off the Record. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much for having us on the show, Tanya. Thanks, Tanya. Great to be here.
Amazing. Should we get started with an introduction about the both of you?
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned it correctly. The Kwok brothers, or some have recently started referring to us as the Brothers Kwok. Dom and I are the co-founders of EasyA. We are the world's biggest Web3 onboarding layer. You can really think of us as being the way that we are onboarding the next billion people to Web3. So we co-founded the EZA app, which has well over 1 million users, growing super, super fast. And we've helped to incubate companies that are today worth well over $12 billion. So can go into a little bit more about our backgrounds, but that should lay the framework. We're really geared towards actually accelerating the internet of value. And that's been our driving mission so that we can onboard the world onto these new rails.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, actually, before we get more into what you guys are building at EasyA, which I think is incredible, we'd also love to learn more about your backgrounds, how you guys got into the space, and how did you eventually decide to start building EasyA?
Yeah, great question. I can kick it off and then hand over to Dom. But first got into the space when I was about 16 years old. I was meant to be studying for my exams. So as you might be able to tell from the accent, we grew up in the UK, in London, although increasingly so actually in the States, people think I'm Australian, but I am actually British. So I'll counter that myth as the first bit that I'll start off on. Was studying for my exams when I was about 16 years old. And for anybody who's from the UK, they'll know that when you're 16 years old, you have to sit this set of exams called the GCSEs. So these are your General Certificate of Secondary Education, and they're basically the most important exams of your life to date. And I was there sitting in the computer gallery, and I came across this piece of text. And honestly, to this day, I'm not sure exactly how I found it, but I stumbled upon this piece of text, which talked about building this new form of peer-to-peer electronic cash. And that, of course, was the Bitcoin white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto. I printed it off on the school printer and read it on my way back home on the school bus, got back home, locked myself in my parents' basement, and I was just absolutely fascinated by it. Over the course of the next couple of days and weeks, went into the weeds of what Bitcoin was, what crypto was, started hooking together all of these crazy machines. My parents were wondering what on earth I was doing locked in the basement, meant to be studying for my GCSEs and my exams, but actually hooking together these rigs. So I learned about a different type of 3-letter and 4-letter words that you typically learn about when you're a kid. But my 3 and 4-letter words were PSU, CPU, GPU, and then of course along came FPGAs, ASICs, pretty much you name it, and started mining Bitcoin, Litecoin, Feathercoin, Primecoin. Those were like some of the hottest ones at the time. Of those, Bitcoin, Litecoin are really still around today, but it was how I originally cut my teeth in this space. Flash forwards a little bit, I was very, very fortunate to win a scholarship to Cambridge University, and it was there that I actually first learned about smart contracts. So I remember I was at Pembroke College, so one of the older colleges at Cambridge, and one of my other engineering friends was telling me about this new thing called smart contracts. And then and there, we realized that the whole world was going to run on these things in the future. It's taken a little bit longer than just a couple of years, so it's about 10 years on now. And the whole world still isn't running on smart contracts, but it's going to happen. And that's what we're accelerating. After Cambridge, I ended up becoming an attorney. So I was one of the youngest people to qualify as an attorney in New York, and then came back and founded EasyA together with Dom. So went from crypto engineering right into law, and then came back into crypto afterwards. But yeah, I'll hand over to Dom to take
Yeah.
us through his journey. He actually headed out here to the States a little bit earlier than I did.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks, Phil, for that introduction. And yeah, great to be on the show with you as well, Tanya. My background is kind of similar to Phil's, I guess, up to the age of 18, since we're brothers, grew up in the UK. But I headed out to the US for college, actually. So I did my undergrad at Wharton, where I studied finance and undergrad, and then worked in finance as well after Wharton. So I worked at Blackstone in New York, and then was actually one of the first hires at Cloud Kitchens, which is or at the time, was a new company that was started by Travis Kalanick, who founded Uber. So that was his new venture after leaving Uber and founding that obviously into a huge, massive success. He then decided to start a new company called Cloud Kitchens, and I was recruited by him as one of the first hires there, and really, grew that from the sort of ground level really into the amazing company it became. And obviously after that left to found EasyA together with Phil. So EasyA we founded a couple of years ago now, really with the goal to bring the next billion people into crypto, and been making significant headway towards that. But yeah, very excited to delve into it and share a bit more about what we're doing at EasyA and what we have planned next and in the short term, immediate future, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so fascinating because I feel like both of you kind of started off going the more traditional route and then somewhere just like converged. And, obviously that probably led to the founding of EasyA. But what was the story like? Who had the idea? Who reached out to who? How did EasyA kind of come about?
Really good question. Great question, Tony. Dom and I have actually been building since we were kids, building lots of different applications. I actually first learned to code because I wanted to build games. So I remember going on to Code Academy. I learned about how to actually code first of all, and then got into Ruby on Rails, and then was really into Unity development. So we've been building for a long time now, built early versions of some social networks. While I was at Cambridge and Dom was at Wharton, we actually founded 2 lending and borrowing startups. So peer-to-peer marketplaces. At the time, the sharing economy was super, super hot. So you had companies like Airbnb, which were really gaining a lot of traction, companies like Uber, and that was what was the current zeitgeist. So co-founded those, scaled them, grew really, really rapidly. And then afterwards, when Dom and I were in TradFi and TradLaw respectively, we were chatting with our friends, and really one of the big things that we wanted to really do was actually have a much bigger impact. And so one of the key drivers that Dom and I have always had is, how do we maximize the greatest impact on the greatest number of people? So we left our jobs and we founded EasyA. And not many people know this, but the reason that EasyA is called EasyA today is because when we originally started, we were actually a peer-to-peer mentoring app. So one of the biggest problems that we saw was one of the biggest barriers to opportunity, one of the biggest barriers to people actually leveling up and also to growing is actually getting access to knowledge. And at the time, there was no AI, there was no ChatGPT. It was a way that actually drew on our prior experience in connecting people up in these peer-to-peer physical marketplaces where you would lend and borrow goods to actually exchanging knowledge. So we drew on that experience that we'd gained while we were building really, really intensely at university, and we built a peer-to-peer online knowledge marketplace, essentially. And it was massive, massive hit, exploded in popularity during COVID. And that was the beginning. So it was EasyA because it's easy for you to get an A with EasyA. So that's a little bit of the lore behind that. Around 2022, we were growing super rapidly, really, really fast. I actually went to one of the first Web3 conferences. Obviously had been in crypto for a while at that point, so almost a decade. And it was in Amsterdam, it was DevConnect. And we were catching up with other people who were in crypto, what was the latest. And one of the people that we met actually suggested that we host our first hackathon. So we got back from Amsterdam and we're like, let's give this a go. We've got such a talented group of people. Let's actually host our first hackathon. And we hosted our first one in London, in Shoreditch, which is like a very hip popping area in London. And we had about 70 to 100 people. It was a small space with a small number of people, but it was an absolute hit. And people were absolutely thrilled with it. And then and there, we realized, you know what? Let's go ahead. Let's roll this out. Let's continue building this out further. We built out more of the EZA app. We built out more of the hackathons. And today, we have well over 1 million users, scaling extremely quickly. And that was how we originally found it, like very, very organic. It was really something that stemmed out of something that was a massive need from our users, from smart people. And ultimately as well, one of the huge things that we wanted to do was actually combine our passion for having impact on people with also our passion for crypto, Web3, and also AI as well. So that's sort of the genesis story behind EasyA, and there's a huge roadmap that we have ahead in order to actually build the products that will help to onboard the rest of the world to crypto. But we really began with an educational mission and just the goal of having the most impact possible.
That's so interesting, because when I first heard of EasyA, I was thinking about the movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
It's a great movie too. I remember watching it as a kid as well. Emma Stone, fantastic movie. But it wasn't inspired by the movie.
Okay, that's good to know. But yeah, so very interesting. I think in 2022, it's actually quite interesting because that's when we had this massive bear market, FTX crashed, and we had a lot of these collapses and things like that. So I'm surprised that there was still so much demand where you guys were able to create like a hackathon, and it was so well attended as well.
Yeah, and to your point, absolutely. I remember when we were in Amsterdam at the time, the big elephant in the room was Terra Luna, and it was still growing extremely quickly. And everybody was like, well, how long is this going to last for? Is it going to continue forever? I think most of the people in the room at that point had realized that the music was still playing, but it was going to have to stop at some point. Then boom, Terra Luna went. Then we had FTX. I remember we were at Solana Breakpoint later on that year, and literally, basically at the end of the conference, FTX went down. And it was a couple of days of just craziness because FTX were big. I remember seeing all their stalls there. I remember seeing like FTX Ventures. It was just like all over the place. And then boom, collapses. But actually, coming out of that, Solana were one of our biggest partners at the time. And so really grew a lot of our community out of that. And really, like, the bear markets are actually where we find that we're able to do the most development. Obviously, people always say that bear markets for building, and it's kind of like, is that just cope? But for us, it actually is. Like, we built the most during bear markets, and it's where we've actually seen that, look, you don't necessarily get the most growth sometimes, but you have a different type of growth. You have a lot of development, which ultimately means that you can position yourself really, really well for when the bull market comes around. And coming out of the last bear market, wow, our user numbers just went absolutely vertical. And that momentum is still continuing through to this day.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so what's it like, for now with you guys in working together as brothers? Because I have a brother and he was the reason I got into crypto, actually, funnily enough. He brought me in. And we've talked about building a company together as well, but we're still thinking about it. So what's it like for you guys to work together as siblings? What are the pros, cons?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been really great so far. Obviously, we grew up together, we've been working together, done a couple of other startups in the past as well together, and I think for us, the most important thing, and really for any founder looking to start a company, is you have to really start it with someone that you can trust and that you know well. And I think there's no better person to do that with than your brother or sister. And I think that's why so many big companies are started by families and then passed down, especially, we're half Asian, and in Asian culture, a lot of big successful conglomerates were originally started by families, and then they were passed down, and ultimately the whole family comes and works together because those are the people that you can really rely on and stick together when times get tough as well, which is inevitable in any company formation history and story. So ultimately for us, I think it's been really good. It's been great. And, I think the future is also extremely exciting. I think a lot of times we see other people who have started companies or maybe even come to EasyA hackathons, launch companies. The reason, number one reason they don't work out is because the co-founders end up either parting ways, or early in the inception of the company, when it gets hard, they fall out. It's very easy to blame one another when things aren't going well for why things are not going well. And ultimately, I think that can lead to a lot of tension, a lot of stress, and ultimately can be the reason for a company never really reaching its full potential. So I would say to anyone who is considering it with siblings, definitely those are your best options. And if not that, a very, very close friend who you've been working with for a while and who you know in both a social but also a professional capacity. Those are the best people to start companies with. I traditionally wouldn't recommend people start companies with people who they just met or even they've known for just a couple of years in college, because ultimately they might be a really good friend and really good in social situations, but they may not be the best co-workers, and they're two very different things. So I would say, it's been an amazing ride so far, and obviously to get to do it with your family is really fun as well, and definitely an experience that I think if you have a sibling, you should try and do. Obviously, if you know your siblings are not the ones for you to work with, then don't do it. But otherwise, I think it's definitely worth doing.
So you should start it with your brother, basically. Go ahead. Take the lead.
Yeah, I'll message him after this. Just be like, let's do it. But yeah, and then kind of coming on to EasyA. I know you guys talked a little bit about the app, which is over 1 million users now. But what are the different focus areas that you guys have? Are you still running the hackathons? You have the app. You also have a ventures arm. What are the different kind of focus areas that you guys have?
Yeah, great question. So you can really think about the EZA in terms of a funnel, and the top of the funnel is the EZA app. So that's where we've got well over 1 million users at this point. It's where the world's smartest people go to learn about the world's leading blockchains. So we're proud to partner with the best of the best blockchains. Of course, we mentioned Solana earlier, Ripple, Stellar, the newer ones as well, like Sui, Aptos, Polkadot. Really, these are some of the world's most incredible technologies, and that's where smart people go to learn about them. So you could think of us kind of like Duolingo for crypto. That's how we refer to it. Some of our users lovingly refer to our app also as the Tinder for blockchain, because you swipe left, you swipe right, and you decide which blockchain you actually have a match with, and then you go ahead and you just start building in that ecosystem. Then midway through the funnel, what we do is we host those hackathons, exactly. And that's where we invite the best people who have been learning in the EZA app to then participate and launch their startup. So to take those ideas that they have been cooking, that they have been excited about, and actually launch them. So we just wrapped up a huge hackathon at Consensus Miami, way bigger than that very first one that we just hosted in 2022. We had about 1,000 developers who'd flown in from all over the world to come and build with us in Miami. We were well oversubscribed. And so we just had to filter it down to the best of the best, the creme de la creme. And that's where we actually gave $200,000 in grants and also prize money to people who won. And then you're right as well that we also then help to back those companies. And so we do that through a mix of grants. We also have the opportunity to invest. And over the past couple of years, we've had some tremendous companies founded by people who started at our hackathons and founded by people who were just a couple of years ago pitching their ideas at our hackathons. So the most valuable one today is called Cognition AI. So they're valued at $10.2 billion today. We've
Wow.
had a company called EZALabs as well, who are now valued at $500 million, raised from the best of the best, like Sequoia. We've had a ton of companies go through Y Combinator and go through A16Z Startup School as well. So really across the board, EasyA is doing everything that you can imagine is possible in order to accelerate the adoption and accelerate the internet of value. We see crypto as being the single most important technology in the history of humanity. And this is what absolutely just drives us every single day. Dom and I are working day and night in order to make this happen a lot faster.
No, I love that. And so for your ventures arm, is it only for projects that go to the hackathon, or can it be outside of that as well?
Yeah, so typically the ventures come out of the hackathons. So over the last couple of years, like Phil mentioned, all of these amazing companies that are now worth over $12 billion have really started at EasyA hackathons in person. But we have also recently launched Kickstart, which is a new subset of EasyA, where essentially anyone can launch permissionlessly on our Launchpad. And so you can think of it really like a tokenization platform where anyone with an idea can launch it and get backed by the community and anyone who wants to support them on their journey. So almost like an on-chain Kickstarter. You can think of it like that, but ultimately it's been a huge hit so far. Last couple of weeks since launch, it's already done over $10 million in volume and really gaining a lot of traction. So yeah, there's a lot of demand for people who really want to launch their ideas, want a platform to do so, but then also on the flip side, people who want to back those ideas from inception. I think oftentimes you look at big companies today, by the time they're already able to be invested in by the public, they're multi-billion dollar companies and they're going to IPO on the stock market, kind of like SpaceX that's coming up, and all these other big AI companies like Anthropic, they're going to be going public much after the original investors have already made a big return on their investments. And ultimately, I think we really want to change that and let anyone back great ideas from inception.
No, for sure. I think so. I actually started my career in venture capital, and the one thing that I really, really wanted from the fund that I was working at was to give me access to participate in deals individually, and that was one of the benefits that they offered, which is one of the reasons why I joined that particular fund at the time as well.
Cool. You could actually invest yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah. Sometimes they allow, like some VCs have that mandate where they let employees put in money or join in 2 rounds with them. So that was really cool because also, similar idea where I feel like, once you come in early, you get that premium, which later stage investors probably miss out on. So yeah, but I think the one thing that I've observed about EZA or what you guys are building is, especially when it comes to hackathons, is how successful they've been. Because I worked with different L1s, I worked with different projects before, and the one thing is we always struggle to get people to build in our ecosystem, get people to come and actually build use cases that we wanted, or any other use case that even they wanted to build. You get to give out a lot of grants, partner with universities, do a lot of different things just to generate that demand. But why do you think your hackathons have been so successful as opposed to, say, a chain that wants to run their own and maybe haven't been able to do that as well?
I think ultimately it just boils down to two things. Number one, network effects, and number two, success stories. So number one, in terms of network effects, we have by far the biggest network of developers in Web3 in the entire world. Nothing comes even close to EZA. And so we have a very, very strong density of talent at the world's best universities and the world's best companies. Universities, like we partnered very, very closely together with Harvard Blockchain pretty much since the beginning, since 2022. Roots run very, very deep at Harvard, the Boston universities as well, like MIT, BU, BC, surrounding ones nearby, like Brown as well, Tufts over on the West Coast, universities like Stanford and Berkeley. And so the network effects have been incredibly strong where people are like, where's the best place to launch my startup in Web3 or even in AI? And the go-to is the EasyA hackathons and to get started via the EZA app as well. And number two is, of course, the success stories. So having companies who are valued at now multi-billion dollars, who have been backed by the best of the best, where the founders were just a couple of years ago pitching an EZA hackathon, that is second to none. And most hackathons, really, they are just hackathons. Whereas our hackathons, they're called hackathons because, quite frankly, that's the easiest way to explain them. But what they really are, and the way that we really think about them as, is they're launchpads. They're launchpads for people to actually create their startups and take it to the absolute next level. People who are building unicorns, people who are building decacorns even. Like that's like the minimum. The minimum is like you should be building a unicorn. And that's what we're excited about seeing. So it's all those things which, so far today, nobody else has really been able to crack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Are there any particular chains or ecosystems that you guys have partnered with that you think are doing a particularly good job, or not really?
Well, all the ones that we work with. Yeah, I think really we have a couple of really, really big partners that we're very excited about. For example, we're close partners together with Ripple, and we have worked together on really the major hackathons that we have co-hosted together with them in order to onboard builders into the XRP ledger. We were just actually at XRP Las Vegas, where we hosted a $100,000 Shark Tank, kind of like Mark Cuban. Dom took Mark Cuban. Maybe I was like Kevin O'Leary, but with a bit more hair. And that was us in Vegas. And then just earlier on in the year as well, or last year rather, in Singapore, we hosted a big hackathon in Singapore at Apex. So that's like the XRP Ledger developer conference, and Ripple were big partners of ours there as well. And then of course also Solana. So we were really, really early on in helping to bring a lot of builders into the ecosystem and help to grow it into what it is today. So I think there's a lot of excitement really around XRP Ledger, around Solana. There are actually the two blockchains that lead the way in the EasyA app in terms of having the most developer activity and the most excitement. And then, of course, there are the others as well. But I think we see those two as being, at least at this time, some of the most exciting ones for developers.
Mm-hmm. And so now going forward, what's kind of the big vision or what's on the roadmap for you guys, for 2026, 2027?
The big thing is EZALabs. So we haven't been able to share too much of this publicly yet. But really, it comes back to our vision of accelerating the internet of value and our mission to do so. What we have done to date is educate a lot of people and onboard a lot of builders. But we're taking that one step further with EZALabs, where we're actually building out the products that end users will be able to use and that will accelerate the adoption and the internet of value much, much faster by virtue of those. And so we will be able to share more about those within the next coming months. And it really, really comes back to how do we bring the most people possible in the fastest way possible into Web3. And Dom touched on earlier one of those products, which is, of course, Kickstart, which is the tokenization layer and protocol that we are building. Ultimately, I can talk a little bit more towards that. Our vision for that is to make it the place where anything that can be traded gets launched and then also traded, right? Anything that can be tokenized gets launched and traded. Like that is what we're really, really excited about. Everything will be tokenized. I am a massive believer in that. I think that anything that we look at, that we can touch, feel, even that's intangible, will be tokenized and will sit on the blockchain. Similar to how way back, I mean, can't believe it's been over pretty much 10 years now already, but in 2016, when I was at Pembroke College, Cambridge, and another engineering friend came up to me and he shared smart contracts and told me about what they were, just in a similar way to how we realized that the whole world was going to run on smart contracts. I think that everything is going to be tokenized and run on smart contracts too. these are the things that we are very, very excited about, and what we're working on next with EZALabs. I mean, the next couple of months is going to be absolutely incredible. We'll have so much to share, really. So, yeah, I'm really, really excited to share more soon.
Yeah, no, I'll keep an eye out as well. I'm quite excited to see what you guys are gonna, launch eventually as well. I'll take a look at Kickstart also. But yeah, I think those were kind of pretty much the questions that I had around EZA and what you guys are building. But I do have like a really fun rapid fire kind of segment. And basically, I'll just give you guys some situations, some questions about the industry, about each other, and you can just tell me what you think about it.
Okay.
You don't have to give me
Go for it.
explanations, although you can if you want to, but it's just like a rapid fire.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. What is the most overhyped crypto hub?
In terms of geographic location. Cool. I'll do the flip. I think one of the most hyped is probably I think one of the most underhyped is actually probably San Francisco. It's where a lot of the OGs still are, and I think that a lot of people are still building out there. I think it's maybe most overhyped for AI, but I think ultimately it's great for crypto and AI. I think it's just a great tech hub.
Dom,
I think New York's pretty overhyped in many cases.
you think so? I thought it's like
I think so.
the right amount of hype.
Yeah, I mean, I think New York's a great city, but I think, there's so much stuff happening in New York. Sometimes it's even hard to focus on what you're actually meant to be doing. There's so many different things you can be doing. And I think it's very easy for many founders, especially if they first move to New York, to really know where to spend the time. So I think so in some respects. I think SF's a great place for building, though, because there are just much fewer distractions.
No,
Everything closes at like 7 p.m. So what else do you do?
It's true. I think SF and Singapore are like the ideal building places because they're so boring. There's nothing to do. Which chain do you think has the best developers?
I'll go with two. I think the XRP Ledger has like some of the best people out there. I think it's got this incredible community, and it means that developers launching there actually have access to really an unparalleled community compared to anything else. Obviously, Solana also in terms of having a great set of developers who are very, very smart, very talented as well. I think these are two very, very powerful ecosystems.
Yeah, I agree with Phil. I think XRPL and Solana are great blockchains.
Which chain do you think has the best marketing?
Good question. I mean, I think the XRP Ledger does have really, really good. It manifests itself in a different way because it's the blockchain built for business. But I think if you really look at which blockchain has the most brand recognition amongst businesses, I think really like the XRP Ledger has made massive inroads, and of course Ripple as well as a business as well has a huge name pretty much worldwide. Second only maybe to Bitcoin in terms of awareness, but it's it's newer as well, so it's growing extremely rapidly.
Dom, do you have a favorite marketing chain or chain that you think?
I think when you think about marketing, it's really in two different ways. I think, like Phil said, for institutions, the XRPL is great. I think in terms of consumer marketing, I think Solana's got a great consumer angle in terms of some of the consumer applications that have been built on there. But I think if you really think about sort of like Solana, you think about like meme coins, you think about these different sorts of really actively tradable assets. Whereas when you think about XRPL, you think about institutions, you think about banks, you think about large organizations using it for their internal operations. So I think different sort of marketing pros and cons for each one.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, the next one is there any startup that you wish you could have invested in early?
Well, I think one of let me think actually. I mean, I think there are quite a few actually that come out of EasyA that I would have wanted to invest in early. We've invested in quite a few personally, but I think as EasyA would have yielded quite big returns.
Yeah, no, I think just doubling down even bigger, and taking more equity in some of those big names as well who've come out. Obviously we gave a great grant to Cognition AI, giving them more money, taking more equity in Cognition, right from the very beginning as well. Giving Walden and taking a stake in what he was building at the time, and I think really across the board, just investing even more, even earlier on in a lot of these really, really great founders.
Mm-hmm. Is that kind of the vision now as well, to double down more on investing in founders?
Well, I think really the vision right now is actually how do we really accelerate the intended value, and I think that investments are obviously one piece. I think the really exciting piece is how do we do that in a way that hasn't been done before, which is actually accelerating the rails on which they come into Web3 and actually using crypto native primitives in order to accelerate their adoption and accelerate how quickly they grow as well. So really like the tokenization platform that we're working on is going to be very, very big towards adopting promoting the adoption thereof. And so that's why with the tokenization layer that we're building, we really want to see that help to drive more and more ideas, more and more founders on chain. So it's the investments, but it's also a lot of actually giving them new opportunities in order to access new communities, grow their communities faster, and also ultimately, of course, generate revenue even faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. All right, and then the next few that I have for you guys are between the two of you. So we go through these really quickly. So who spends more time on Twitter out of the two of you?
Me, definitely.
Yeah, Dom probably wins that one.
Who would survive longer without a phone?
With what?
Without a phone, probably me.
Probably Phil.
Oh. Who's more likely to get scammed by a founder with good vibes?
Probably me.
Really? All right. Who is more likely to get cancelled?
Cancelled.
Probably me.
Who's more competitive?
I think we both win that one.
And okay, who has worse work-life balance?
Both take the crown on that, probably.
All right, and the last one is who would be more dangerous with infinite money?
Phil.
Nice. All right, and I think that was really fun. Yeah, I think the last question that I have for you guys is what are some things you're excited for in 2026, 2027, in crypto, with EasyA, in general?
The biggest thing that I just can't stop thinking about is literally becoming the venue. Like we were saying earlier, like everything is going to be tokenized. And so what is going to be the venue? What primitives need to be built in order to create the ultimate venue where literally everything can be tokenized? Literally everything. And that's going to be one of the key ways that we onboard literally like billions of people into Web3 and also trillions of dollars of new capital into Web3. It's this venue where everything is going to be tokenized. And for the first time ever, it's going to be tokenized there. It's going to be traded there. It's going to be launched there. People are going to store assets there. And so, of course, it's non-custodial, but for traditional people, they'll think of it as being basically custody. They're like, this is just everything. And I think it's going to be more than just a super app. It's like a super primitive. It's just something unlike we've ever seen before. It's even difficult to explain or to describe what it even is, because we tend to try and fit things into boxes of what's already happened before. And it's like a Goldman Sachs bot on chain, or it's like a NASDAQ but on chain, but it's like all of the above plus more because it's even better. And so that's what I just can't stop thinking about 24/7 nonstop. Like everywhere while I'm in the gym, while I'm on a run, while I'm sleeping. It's like I'm thinking about this nonstop. And so that's what I'm very, very excited about. We obviously have some incredible developments on the horizon as well, both within EZA, but also within the macro environment as well, with the Clarity Act coming up. Just everything that's going on right now is so exciting that I think the next 6 to 12 months and 12 to 24 months after that are going to be some of the most exciting months and years that we've ever seen in crypto, and even just in humanity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Dom, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I think I agree with Phil. I think as well, in addition to that, the regulations and, building off what Phil said, the regulations are going to have a huge impact in terms of adoption, in terms of bringing new capital on chain. Of course, right now, only 7% of the world currently owns crypto. And there's still huge amounts of people who want to come on chain and are waiting to come on chain. They can't come on chain for different reasons, either because it's too hard logistically. It's very hard still to set up a wallet, to really even buy crypto, to do things on chain. But as we start to build out the consumer applications that people can use, especially at EZA and under EZALabs as well, and we continue to make it easier for people to get into the space through EZA, which we've already been doing for the last couple of years, we really will be able to get that new capital on chain and really expand the pie and make sure that everyone who's currently in the space, who is still very much early, will benefit as well. More capital on chain means higher crypto prices by definition. So very, very exciting times ahead, and we're very excited to be at the forefront of it, all at EZA.
No, absolutely. I think I'm very excited as well to see how the industry evolves, because I feel like with regulatory changes coming up, it's going to be huge for crypto. And so I think this year in particular is quite important for us as an industry. Yeah, really appreciate having you guys on today. It was great, and thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us on the
Thanks,
show. It was
Tanya.
a pleasure to be on, Tanya.
All right, I'll just cut it.
Thank you for listening to Off the Record. If you like this episode, like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps the podcast grow. You can find more episodes wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.